Miami-Dade College.
Wait. No.
Hello, and my name is Alex Suarez. I'm president of the Labor Community Students Club at Miami-Dade College. It's an honor to be invited to speak today. We need to consider history today when we talk of the tensions with North Korea.
Yo.
What concerns is it of the students and workers of this country, the foreign policy of the United States? We must consider the fact all too often there's a lack of emphasis when it comes to concerns on threats the U.S. makes to other nations when the U.S. decides to intervene or impose sanctions on another nation. As part of history, we need to realize the role the U.S. plays or is perceived to play in the world. Latin America, for example, which is so close to us here in Miami, has many leaders and heads of state who have referred to Trump as Emperor Trump and the U.S. as the Empire, or the Empire of the North. If we look at the history of empires, no empire in the world has ever had over 800 military bases or outposts. When it comes to military presence, the U.S. has the largest empire in history. And yet the government is hypocritical on this. And I'll continue here. A little bit windy. The government denies that we are an empire. That would be like going to New York City and denying the Empire State Building exists. The elephant in the room cannot and must not be ignored any longer. The U.S. present in Korea, in Guam, in Hawaii, in Puerto Rico, and countless other territories must cease for world peace to prevail. The U.S. is no longer the dominant power on the world stage. Its role is fading. That does not mean the end of American exceptionalism in that context will result in the apocalypse. However, an end to the truce in the so-called Koreas would mean the demilitarized zone would be crossed. Nuclear holocaust would commence. Japan, Russia, China, and South Korea would immediately feel the effects of a nuclear blast launched by the U.S. on North Korea, since the arsenal the U.S. has today has much harsher bombs than used on Hiroshima or Nagasaki. The U.S. spends more money on its military budget than all countries combined. People who do not know geography or history need to get out a book, get out a map, and see countries that the small nation North Korea, which Kim Jong-un rules, borders or neighbors. The land border to the north includes both Russia and China, both allied with North Korea. Retaliation would likely result in World War III. All the money the U.S. empire pours into the military-industrial complex as programs for the poor and social uplift are reduced would not prevent a nuclear holocaust from reaching home. This is not a scare tactic, but a reality. The ultimate goal of the U.S. bases on the frontiers of a new world war is U.S. hegemony or supremacy throughout the world. But the so-called blowback would be like a million Libyas. The division and chaos there caused by the invasion of the West would be felt at home. The chickens coming home to roost on a global scale would have devastating consequences. Guam, once owned by the Spanish Empire, needs to be independent, as do all nations under the yoke of any empire. To conclude, I want to honor today a young man who passed away a couple years ago, a friend of mine, Marty Droll. He was president of the American North Korean Friendship Organization. From his base for peace in Philly, where the Declaration of Independence from another empire was written, he fought to prevent war between the two nations. When the U.S. invaded Korea in 1950, it used more bombs than it used during the entire Pacific Theater in World War II. With what moral authority does the U.S. speak of Korea, or Japan for that matter, who also had also controlled and oppressed Korea for a time. Kim Jong-un has offered to cease his nuclear program if the United States stops provocative maneuvers on the border. In exchange, not only have the maneuvers continued, Sony, a Japanese company, produced a movie called The Interview with the U.S., which not only mocked the North Korean leader, but portrayed his assassination. Kim Jong-un is the grandson of the man who successfully led the resistance to the Japanese occupation of Korea. But like in Indochina or Vietnam, when the French left, the U.S. came. The U.S., like in Vietnam, divided the country in two, and we still have these tensions till today. A failure in diplomacy. Long live a united Korea, down with U.S. empire and all empires and tyrannies in the world. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, somebody else want to take this one?
Diplomacy now.
Diplomacy now.
Diplomacy now.
Ahora.
No war. Diplomacy now. No war. Diplomacy now.